Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of They Say. I always get honored just being able to spend this time with you guys and just honored about the amazing guests that say yes to me to be on this podcast. This one is near and dear to my heart. I would say this, outside of my daughter, this one is personal. I have had the pleasure of knowing Deshauna before she became the world of America's Miss America. So I'm so excited to have her on here and just talk about her journey. She is someone I am very inspired by, and I know we all are inspired by. She has really just created her own lane and her own path, and she is just forging ahead and taking no names and just going at it. So I love it. I'm proud of her. I'm honored she said yes to me. And I just thank her for spending this time with me. And we're just going to have just a great conversation about all things that make Deshauna who she is. And she is so multifaceted. So Deshauna, thank you so much for saying yes.
Oh, you are welcome, Soror. I'm happy to be on this call. We had talked about it earlier this year, and I was traveling and kind of just transitioning into the new year. So I'm glad we got a chance to really put this on the calendar and knock it out. So I'm just honored to be having a conversation with you and happy to be transparent, talk about my life, my experiences, and hopefully be able to inspire your viewers.
Yes. And who better to do it but you? I know when we see your clips on YouTube, when we see your clips on, TikTok, Instagram, I'm like, I think your commencement was one of my favorites. So we'll definitely have to talk about that and how that came about. But Deshauna, tell us about your journey, because you really have such a refined journey that didn't start off on the stages of Miss USA. Like, it's really been a journey. And I was talking to her about this before. I think I met you in 2010.
Yes,
I believe 2010 at homecoming, and man, we had a time. So that was one of the best homecomings I've ever been to. Shout out to VSU and Alpha Zeta. You guys took very good care of me, so I appreciate that. So yes, tell us about your journey.
So let's take it all the way back. I'm a military brat, so I'm an Army brat. My father and my mother both served in the U.S. Army, and they met at Fort Benning in Georgia, which is where I was born.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't spend too much time there. I think I was only there for maybe a year or two of life, and then we were restationed to Fayetteville, North Carolina, Fort Bragg.
Yes.
Then my parents got divorced and we moved to Minnesota, myself, my mom, and my two siblings. And my dad remarried, had two additional kids. And then my senior year in high school, I left Minnesota to go live with him in Virginia to be able to get a year of residency so that I could do in-state tuition at the Virginia State University, right?
Yes.
It was a very interesting experience going from Minnesota to Virginia. I didn't realize how Minnesota is not like farmland, but it's kind of farmland, right? It's all slow and relaxed, and everyone is very friendly and real. And it's just, I didn't realize how much being a Minnesotan really influenced who I am today. It's still one of my favorite states and places in the world. That might surprise people because I don't talk about it often.
Right.
But it was my formative years and really transitioned into who I am today, a very relaxed, very relaxed person that actually doesn't really enjoy the spotlight too much, doesn't actually wear makeup every day, or like this pageant girl stereotype that normally people hear when it comes to me. They have their assumptions, and even my husband has his assumptions. When we first met, he's thinking he's marrying a beauty queen, and then next thing you know, we finally get a chance to live together and all that. I'm walking around in sweats, no makeup, wearing a ponytail, just very relaxed.
Yeah.
And when I got to Virginia, people were in high school wearing high heels, lace front wigs, like full face of makeup to come to class. And it was very alien-like to me. I really felt like I was on a different planet. And it was probably one of the worst years of my life. I'm not going to lie. I would not recommend anybody change schools their senior year. It is not a good idea. It was very hard for me to make friends. But I ended up working at Target, and majority of my friends during my senior year worked at Target with me. That's where I started having my relationships and my friendships. And then after that, I moved on to Virginia State University, pledged Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, and I was in my elements.
Yeah.
Virginia State really showed me what it means to be around people that we're not monoliths. I think that when we think of Black people, we think that we're all the same.
Right.
All so very different. And I feel like on an HBCU, you can always find someone that's so similar to you, not only in Blackness, but just in personality, in things we like to do, hobbies. And when I joined our sorority, boy, did I meet my people. Even I just had my wedding in December, and one of my sorority sisters, my line sisters,
Yep.
was my bridesmaid.
Yeah.
It's one of those things in which you just really start to discover who you are. So people say, when did Deshauna know who she was? And I would say probably during college at some point, I really started to become Deshauna Barber. And it was just a beautiful experience to evolve and to find your people, right? Yeah. So I started pageants during that time frame, my sophomore year in college. I was actually discovered at Target by a pageant recruiter.
Love that.
Isn't that crazy, right?
Just a little bit more of that, because that's so peculiar. Tell us more.
So I was working. It was the summer between my sophomore and junior year at Virginia State. I was every summer and during holidays, I would go back to Target to work to make money because I didn't have a job at Virginia State. I was in ROTC and they would pay me a stipend every 2 weeks, but during the summer and the holidays, that stipend ends. So I was always very excited to go back to Target so that I could one, see my friends, my element as well, and two, just make some money.
Yeah.
It was a older white woman, actually, that approached me. She was a staff member at Miss Virginia USA organization. And first thing she says is, "You look like you could be the next Miss USA."
Oh my God, I love it.
It was such a life-changing statement because I had never watched a pageant in my life. The closest I had gotten to watching a pageant and understanding a pageant was watching the movie Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock.
Okay, that's a good one.
And what's funny about that movie is that it lives up to almost every pageant stereotype.
Really?
It does. That airhead type, these girls have no substance. They're just pretty and prissy. And for just a brief moment, I thought to myself, no, ma'am, that's not happening. But I wanted to give her a chance and kind of hear out what she had to say about it because it kind of piqued my curiosity. So we ended up meeting at Starbucks the next day. She brought a foot-tall stack of pageant books and convinced me to enter into my very first pageant, which I did a few months later.
Wow.
I was entrenched in the pageant space and I loved it because, like I told you at the beginning, my parents were military and we weren't necessarily in the makeup and big dresses and big hair. That's not really how I was raised. I was raised, out in the woods, having fun, building forts, I just didn't have a chance to really get in touch with the feminine side of Deshauna. And pageants really opened it up. And I got a chance to be exposed to a different side of myself that I did not know existed. So I did that for 7 years until I I did Virginia four or five times, and then I did DC twice.
Okay.
After I obviously graduated college, this competition is every year. So on my 7th try and during my final try, which was my aging out year, 26 is how old you could be back then. You had to be 26 or younger. So I won when I was 26.
Aww.
And went on to compete at Miss USA, won Miss USA, and then went to compete for Miss Universe in Philippines and placed top 9 amongst 86 countries.
Wow. You're such a goat. You're a goat. I love it.
Yeah.
I appreciate about you from 2010 to 2024, there really hasn't been no gap in who you are. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you've been, one thing I love about Deshauna, like, she is the same. Like, it doesn't matter that she's Miss USA, that she has all these accolades, that she has all these amazing things going on. She's still the person that will speak your name in rooms you aren't in. And I've had her do that for me. And I'm honored because not many people understand the importance of sponsorship. Sponsor somebody who's not even in a room, but you know that they'd be a good fit. So I just want you to really speak to that, Deshauna, because you actually embody it and you do it. So I want you to tell the audience what that looks like and why is it so easy for you to do it?
You know, allyship is important to me, especially for not only women, but Black women and women of color. I take it very seriously. And I remember, so just so we can give some backstory, I was president and CEO of a nonprofit organization called Servicewomen's Action Network, a really awesome women veterans organization. And after Miss USA was over, I did so much advocacy and volunteering, working with the USO and Operation Homefront. And during that time, I was still in the reserves in the military. I didn't actually get out until June 2022 is when I got out of the military. So I did 11 years. And giving back to veterans has always been very important to me, not only because I was a service member, but because my parents and my siblings eventually joined the military after they got out of high school. So it's all of us in the military. I've seen the effects of individuals that come back from their deployments. I've seen the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder. I've seen family members that have experienced homelessness and mental health crises. So I understand why I have a passion for veterans, is because I have a personal connection with them, not only through my service, but through the service of my family members.
Yes.
And I jumped straight into speaking after Miss USA was over. And I wasn't doing a lot of volunteering. I didn't feel like that philanthropic bug in me was being pleased. So I spent years trying to figure out what can I do to give back to service members. And in 2019, I received an email that the president and CEO position was open for Servicewomen's Action Network, which at the time was a nonprofit I had never heard of.
Right.
So I went through, I did my research, I applied, I eventually got the job and started in January of 2020. Of course, COVID hits, right? COVID hits in March. And next thing you know, like, we can't go to the Hill and advocate. We can't do anything. Everything is virtual now. We can't even have in-person board meetings. And it became this virtual family for me.
Yes.
And I did that for 3.5 years. And last summer, I had to step down because I was so overwhelmed with speaking, planning my wedding, writing my book, launching my podcast, doing all these things. And I'm like, okay, I have to step down. So I ended up stepping down and transitioning to the board of directors position. And then I realized, okay, actually, this board of directors position is still a lot. It's a commitment. It's work. It still requires a lot of you. So I ended up deciding to step down from the board of directors position. And what you're supposed to do as a formality, and really as a personal gift and responsibility to the board, is by making sure that you replace yourself.
Yes.
So I thought, and I was telling this to my husband, I'm like, I don't know a single person that I trust to be able to take this position, because one thing about the board is you have to be a networker. You have to be someone that is very social and knows how to talk to people, and, you know, has some business connections and relationships. So I'm thinking, like, who can I pick? Who can I pick?
Yeah.
Me and you had just, I think, been texting a few months prior. I forgot what we were texting about, or we got on a phone call about. And I thought to myself, you know what? I feel like I know somebody. And I went to your LinkedIn. I'd already known all the great things that you were doing, but I went to your LinkedIn and I saw you at all these women conferences. I saw you speaking at all these events. I just saw you just out there giving back and being social. I'm like, oh my gosh, she is so perfect. So I text you and I said, hey, like, it would be great for you to join the board. And I had told them about you after I'd said that I was stepping down. I said, I actually have someone really great in mind. Here is her LinkedIn, check her out. And I text you and you obliged, and we did the interviewing process and all of that. And you ended up stepping into the board and have done an incredible job since stepping in, really being a voice of reason on the board of directors. So I just felt really strongly that I have some heavy shoes to fill, one, coming out of the CEO position, and two, just, with all my networks. So you really did a great job at filling my shoes, and I was really happy to have you step in.
I'm honored, and I thank you for that, because oftentimes I don't think we take the time to think about relationships, right? Like, who would have thought us meeting at a homecoming would still be something years later? But when I tell you that experience, I still probably talk about that homecoming experience with my daughter now that she's about to be off to college, and how going to BSU changed my life. Like, I had never seen so much like sisterhood and camaraderie, and just all like, it's such a family. Like, it didn't matter what Greek organization you were in. It didn't matter what you were part of. It's such a cohesiveness on that campus. And then to see how you have really just elevated so many others by you being Miss USA, not just Sigma Gamma Rho, not just VSU, but just how you have used your platform to amplify the military, to amplify what you're passionate about. And you continue to do it. That's what I'm honored to see. Because you could have been like, oh, this is all about me, I'm excited, da, da, da. But no, you take the time to uplift, amplify, and just bring others with you. And that's really a testament to your character. So I definitely want to say that publicly, because it's really who you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really who you are. So that's awesome. So you transitioned out of Swan. So you have been a paid speaker for some time, and you even rolled out a course, which I'm super excited about, and I want you to tell us about. But tell us about the process of just knowing how to go from that, what that looked like, and how to make sure you're connecting to the right opportunities.
So speaking is a very interesting experience. I started it at random. It seems to be one of the things that happened for me. Everything that I succeed in, it seems to be a random experience that opens me up to this space. But I was actually Miss USA at the time in which I decided to consider speaking. I was at a camp. It was a mentorship camp by Steve and Marjorie Harvey.
Okay.
And it's a really great mentorship group for the Atlanta metropolitan area. They bring together young girls between the age of 13 and 18, all high schoolers, and it's actually in partnership with the Army.
Oh, wow.
So they reached out to me and they said, hey, we'd love for you to come and speak at this mentorship program. It has about 100 girls. Just go up there, tell them your story. So I did. I came down from New York City. This was fall of 2016. And they said, just go up there, tell them your story, and, let's see how it goes. So I went up there and I told them my story. Now, coincidentally, this mentorship program, I believe, was in September of 2016. My mom had just passed away in August of 2016. Yeah. So I was in a very weird space emotionally. And one of the main things that I wanted to tell the girls is listen to your parents. Yeah. Obviously when they are pouring into you, to listen to your parents. I was also telling them about regret and grief and the things that I wish I had did differently as a daughter. And I talked to them about what they can do, one, to be a better daughter than I was, but to really just be a role model, not only in their family as they continue to go off and strive for better things, but I gave an entire story about how I came about Miss USA and the things I wish I had done differently. And it was just an entire story. I spent about 45 minutes talking, and then I did a Q&A. And when I got off the stage, a person from the Miss Universe organization walked up to me and said, you need to become a motivational speaker because it's incredible. And I said, oh, okay, probably not. I want to be an actress. I said, no, thank you. And then I Googled how much motivational speakers made. And then I said, okay, well, maybe.
I love it.
And what's interesting is that the more and more I got deeper into my Miss USA year, the more and more I realized I am not interested in fame.
Wow.
It's not something that I desire. It is a lot of pressure, and it is not an experience I actually enjoy. I think when people think of Miss USA and they think of pageantry, they might think of people that enjoy attention. But the older that I've gotten, the more I've realized that I actually have no desire for attention. I only have desire to inspire people and to live a financially stable life. And whatever I need to do to achieve that is kind of my goal. Unfortunately, sometimes with making money and inspiring people, it kind of requires a little bit of fame. So I only want a drop of it to be able to make impact.
She said she wants to drop
Nothing more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, walking down the street and being recognized, I don't enjoy that.
Okay.
And I don't experience it, thankfully. Every now and then, once or twice a year, it might be a pageant girl that runs in me and says, "Oh my God, are you Deshauna?" And even then I feel uncomfortable. So I think that over the years, speaking has been such a perfect middle ground with inspiring people and having a little bit of fame, just a very small drop. And I just really enjoyed that. And I've been doing it for a very long time now. I started officially in 2017. So it's been about 7 or 8 years that I've been doing it professionally. And I've now transitioned into somewhat of a mentorship teacher role because now I have always, over the past 6 or 7 years, gotten messages from people that have a desire to become professional speakers. And they said, "Do you have a mentorship group, or can you be my mentor? Do you have a book?" And it's always been, "No, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't." And it's also always been, I don't even have time to mentor people right now. So mainly because when my speaking career really kicked off, I was president of Swan. So I did not have time to mentor people. When I take the role very seriously, and if I commit to that, I want to make sure that I'm giving this person as much energy as I can. I just have not had the time. So now that I'm no longer working full time for the nonprofit and I'm not planning a wedding, writing a book, I've kind of taken the time to step back and move into that mentor instructor role. And I launched a mentorship program called Thrive. And it sold out within a week, actually, which I was shocked by. So I have 18 mentees. That's all I could take. And for the past month, we have been in a class every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Faithfully, we do a 2 to 3 hour class.
Oh, wow.
And we did that every Thursday in May. And our last actual course is this week. So 5 weeks of training, and they're all so incredible and accomplished. And I'm excited to see their life really transform as they step into speaking and using the work and the information and the resources that I gave them to be able to launch their careers.
I love that.
It's sold out. So, and I don't know if I plan on doing it again. If I do, it'll probably be in the fall. So if anyone is interested, just be on the lookout on LinkedIn. I'll definitely post it, but it'll likely be in the fall because now speaking is kicking back up again. I don't have time, but I did a book, and it's called The Speaker's Blueprint.
Yes.
So if you go to Deshauna.com, you can find my ebook. It is a almost 100-page book that goes over all the great things to know about speaking, marketing, branding yourself, writing, and impactful speech. So check that out if you're interested. And if you are interested in mentorship, look out in the fall.
Okay. So with that being said, and let's transition to, you're really just in this very peaceful place. It's like a very serene place. So kind of talk to us about how you got there. Because I feel like it's a mellowness around you that I absolutely love.
Man. Stillness is something that I'm experiencing right now. And boy, am I struggling. I am so used to being busy.
Yes.
And I have not really figured out what life looks like when it's not busy. Working is survival for me.
Right.
And it always has been. I got to Virginia State at 17 years old. And I remember saying, "Oh, I'm going to hustle."
Yeah.
And I hustled and I've been hustling all the way up until 2024. So from 2007, when I got on Virginia State's campus, to 2024, I've been hustling.
Yep.
And I have not known a life without the hustle and bustle. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand what it feels like to not have anything to do.
I get it.
It's strange.
Yeah.
So last year, I was stepping into my 4th year of being president of SWAN, and there's always something to do with a nonprofit space. It is a space that requires constant networking, constant pitching, constant reframing of strategy and growing. Like, there's always something to do.
Yes, ma'am.
So I've done that for so many years. I also wrote a book last year. It is called Pretty Ugly Lessons. You can find it on Amazon. It's a great read. I was planning a wedding last year. I was speaking last year. I was content creating last year. And I launched my podcast.
Over the world. She was just taking over the world.
Oh, yeah. Just all these things, right?
Yeah.
So then January hits.
Yeah.
And no nonprofit, no wedding, book is written, and podcast is launched. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, for the first time in my life, I have nothing to do.
Wow.
And it's interesting because, I have such a great husband. Me and him, they call it 50-50. We're a 100-100. So all of our money goes into one pot.
Mm-hmm.
And we split it accordingly. But because I'm an entrepreneur, as you understand how entrepreneurship works, some months there's no money, and then other months there's massive amounts of money. So it just depends, right? His check is the check that pays all of our bills.
Mm-hmm.
And any money that comes in from my entrepreneurship work is just additional money to be able to pay off debt, to be able to invest, to be able to save.
Yes.
But my money is not necessary for us to survive.
Mm.
So now I'm technically in my first real year of marriage. And now I have an awesome husband that pays all the bills. And now I don't need my money to survive, right? So there's that pressure is gone.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to function without the pressure. So
that's powerful.
It's an insane thing to think about, that I've always been in survival mode and I never knew it.
Yep.
So now I'm not in survival mode. Now I know my bills are going to be paid every year and I don't necessarily have to do anything.
Right.
I'm always going to find something to do, but I don't have to. So what I ended up doing was writing another book, which was the ebook, the Speaker's Blueprint. And then once that book was written, I'm like, I don't have anything to do. What the heck? I don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
Speaking is very slow. A lot of speakers are experiencing it because it's an election year. We can always expect during election year that things are so political. Conferences are hiring political commentators and not necessarily speakers like myself, which is fine. I'm used to it every 4 years. I've experienced it in 2020, and I get it. So now I'm just sitting back like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So once the Speaker's Blueprint was written, I said, okay, now I've got the time to mentor.
Yes.
So I've been spending the past few months, preparing my mentorship group. And then I launched my mentorship group. And oh my gosh, this week the mentorship group is done. And then I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Once I'm done with the mentorship group. So it really just brings us back to this conditioning.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with stillness? How do you deal with non-activity? I just ordered 2 books, actually. Let me show you.
Okay, show me.
These are 2 books I plan to start.
Okay. The Hood
is over.
Oh, my daughter might like that. I have to tell her.
Definitely take a screenshot after this is over to send to her. But I am excited to read these 2 books, and that's going to take up some time.
Yeah.
I was looking at PhD programs because I'm like, maybe
that's cool. Come on, doctor.
I'm looking for ways to figure this out, but my husband has really pushed me to just sit and be still. and to find a healthy balance. But I think a lot of working women, as you have experienced, I'm sure, is sometimes inactivity to me feels like
Restrictive.
it's very unproductive.
Yeah.
And I was raised in a household where my dad would walk past my room, or my mom would work, not my mom, really just my dad, because he is just the hustler of them all. My dad would walk past my room, even my senior year in high school, and I would be chilling, not doing anything. And he'd be like, "You don't have anything to do? There's nothing that you have to do."
I'm so guilty of that. So guilty of that.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is a conditioning.
No, but let's go here because my dad is Jamaican. So
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's a different level of conditioning.
Yeah.
Because I find that my daughter, she is transitioning, like you know, Samira. She's about to transition to college, and I'm just looking at her doing stuff, and I'm like, you don't have anything to do? Like, let's find you something to do. And then I feel bad because Deshauna, she graduated a year early. She finished her junior and senior year together.
Nice.
She's going to school as a second semester freshman. She was talking about taking some of her harder classes. She got a partial scholarship for athletic training. Like she's probably killing it by everybody else's ideal. But I'm like, is there something else for you to do? And I'm like, oh my God. So hearing you say this and just like describe how your father was, my dad is like, he was talking to me about goal setting yesterday. He's like, well, what type of goals have you and her set? And I was like, oh God, well, let me figure out what else I need to be doing. But I do agree with you that when you do have that parent, and for him, I think it's cultural. I think it's not just, I think it's a Black man thing. And I also think it is a Caribbean people are known for having multiple jobs.
Right.
So it's like a double conditioning. So I feel you, sis. Like my poor child, she's probably tired of me because I'm like, well, what else are you going to do? She's like, Mom, I've only been graduated 2 weeks. Like, what do you mean? What else am I going to do? And I was like, well, do you feel like you're doing something? Do you feel productive?
And listen, your daughter is going to become who I am at 34, where stillness is it's very difficult. It's almost, it feels
foreign.
It feels so foreign, and it feels unhealthy.
Yeah. And it's like you didn't earn it. Like I feel like I didn't earn it. So I get it. Oh, I get it.
Me sitting here, and I did this over the weekend. I even put it on Instagram, the threads, the Facebook, Twitter. I put it on threads. And I was like, does anybody else struggle not to work throughout the weekend? When I was working at the nonprofit, I worked all through the weekend. I had no days off. I always had something to do. So now I have weekends yesterday where I spent the first half of the day not doing anything. And my husband walked in. He's like, oh my gosh, you don't have your laptop open. I'm like, yeah, I'm just sitting here watching Grey's Anatomy, relaxing. And after about 2 hours, he goes into his office because he's studying for a license for his engineering course. Okay. He comes out and have my laptop open and I'm working. He's like, look at you, you're working. I'm like, oh my gosh, oops. And then I shut my laptop. Mm-hmm. It's so natural, and it's muscle memory for me to open up my laptop, start figuring out some things to do, things I can work on, things I can prepare for next week. And it's not healthy. We have got to learn to sit still. It's really an America's thing. Yeah. It's definitely a North American thing for sure, where we live, especially in the United States of America, where we're a first world country, but you have to work to survive. Cost of living is outrageous. Unless you come from wealth, you have no other choice. But when you go to other countries, they'll take a week, 2 weeks off every other month. The
whole city will shut down.
Whole city will shut down. There's a peaceful energy in some of these countries. One of my favorite countries to visit, although they're part of the Americas. I like going to the Dominican Republic. It's like my favorite. And then probably at a strong second is Mexico. Okay. And there are certain towns in these countries where everyone just is moving slowly. Mm. I deal with that when I'm walking through the mall in Mexico, or I'm walking, to a market. I speed walk because I don't even know how to walk slowly. I always have somewhere to go. Like I have somewhere I need to
be. In such a rush constantly. And it's crazy because I often, like, especially being in this entrepreneur space, let's be real, like I have to stop and ask myself, now that I'm in this space and just seeing everybody around me, I stop and ask myself, well, where are they going? What are you trying to achieve? Like, what is the end goal? And because it feels like we're on such like a hamster wheel, like the world is on a permanent wheel, just spinning. And I'm like, well, where are we going? Like, where are we going?
Yeah.
So I think I'm grateful for entrepreneurship in that space. And you can speak to this too, because you've been an entrepreneur for a while, where if you really sit back and you look at everything else and everything around you, you're like, where's everybody going? Like, where are they going?
And how do we get off this hamster wheel?
Yes.
Mentally exhausting.
It is exhausting, mentally, emotionally, physically. It's draining.
How do we get off of this survival, this commitment to surviving and this survival work mode? Because in truth, when you're working to survive, it kind of takes away the passion from the work as well. Yes. And now I've gotten, and he says, I just love this for you. And I love having a husband like this. Oh my gosh, I can't.
Oh, you deserve it.
Husband like this. But he's like, you don't even realize how to sit down and just do your passion work at your leisure. You don't know how to do leisure work.
Yeah.
Everything has a purpose. Yeah. Everything brings in income, everything. And I said to myself, you're so right. Now I've got to slow myself down. So I've gotten into yoga in the morning, learning to meditate and turn my brain off. Mm-hmm. I haven't, usually when I read, even my books are career focused or educational. Something has to go into my career. Yes, now reading these books just because it's a leisure activity, I've even gotten excited about that. Like, okay, that's going to slow me down a little bit because now I'm just reading, but I'm not reading to help with my career. I'm not reading to become more educated. I'm just reading for fun, right? Yeah. So now I'm figuring out how to have fun. And one thing that he knows about me, the only way for me to shut off work is if I'm out of America. I'm out of this country. Like I have to be on vacation. I have to have my out of office message on. Like that's the only way for me to turn off. Yeah. I have to figure out how to turn off in my own house. And it's become really difficult for me to grasp and understand what peace and stillness looks like. Working but not to survive looks like, and it has been a true transition for me. And one thing that I've talked about in my speeches is the importance of work-life balance and the importance of knowing when to focus on things that are just for you, that are not family related, work related. It's just something for yourself. And now I'm trying to practice what I preach.
Hey, something else. I love that. And I feel like that definitely keeps you from not being a hypocrite. But let's kind of go a little deeper into that, because that was powerful. When I think about work-life balance, I often hear that it's a myth and it's like a far-off mystical figure that we'll never see. How have you demystified work-life balance and just really held yourself accountable to actually try to achieve it?
Well, I've been, and I tried it over the weekend. It's been something I've been trying every weekend, which is to literally do no work over the weekends.
Okay.
And I don't know if I've been accomplishing it so much, because still muscle memory opens up my laptop and I start working. I'm like, oh my God, I've been working for 3 hours. Oh my gosh. But that's one thing that I've been trying to do to, one, hold myself accountable and to put my health first, because it's just not healthy to live like this either. Right. So one thing I've been trying to do, is to do no work over the weekends. And I feel like I'm trying to give myself some grace in recognizing that this change doesn't happen overnight. If we're talking about a conditioning from at least 2007 until 2024, that's 17 years of working to survive. Yeah. So if I can at least spend half the day not working, that's better than the week before, in which it was only a quarter of the day, right? So I am taking it. Whoa, there's.
Well, we're excited. You got the
right. But I'm taking it one baby step at a time, and I challenge everyone to really look and self-reflect and decide to yourself, what are your unhealthy habits? And my unhealthy habits is definitely not turning off work. So every single weekend, I'm looking to change that. while also realizing that when the sun goes down, I should stop working. That's another thing that I'm trying to prioritize during the weekdays, because I'll work up until midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I was doing that when I was working at the nonprofit. That was just kind of my routine, to be somewhat of a vampire and to be up all night doing work.
Yeah.
And I've gotten myself to the point where when the sun goes down, Deshauna, when it's dark outside, you should not be working. You should be reading a book. You should be watching a show. You should just be relaxing.
Yes.
To do that now.
That is powerful. And I'm proud of you for sharing that, because I feel like that is a moment that would probably resonate with many, because you're speaking directly to many women and men across America, and even how we're raising our kids. You don't have kids yet, but you got me thinking, well, man, I'm like, I probably have this poor kid on the treadmill of life, because I'm like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And so just pacing her to help her understand that she doesn't have to achieve everything in X amount of time, like just give herself grace. So that is powerful, and thank you for that. And she'll probably thank you too, because she's going to, my mom is going to try to calm down a little bit. But you're right though. But I don't know. For me personally, I feel like because my parents didn't get to achieve everything that they wanted to achieve, I owe them, and not just them, the people that become behind me, I owe them so much more. So I'm just very intentional, and maybe too intentional, to make sure that I exceed my own expectations and make my family name great in the world. And that's really what I like. I don't know, Deshauna, I'm really in this legacy pace right now. I feel like we're in such a major transition in the world, especially because it's an election year. Not just that, but there's a lot of pivoting going on. Like people that we thought would be in prominent positions forever, these positions are becoming available.
Yeah, they are.
Really understanding, what's going on with the world. What are you trying to accomplish? And what's your legacy? Like, what do you want your name to mean to this generation coming before you, to your kids? And what are you really trying to leave? What is the impression you're trying to leave on the world? So that's really what I've been on, probably even more so now, especially that my daughter's about to be in college in the fall. I'm like, well, what's next? Right? Like, what is next? And I'm like, because I've been a mom since I was 21. So I've done that role and just really been focused on her. So it's just finding out who I am in all these other spaces without the titles. And I think that's the most interesting but exciting thing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's an evolving experience, and it's I feel like it's also allowing the evolution of life, that one thing can't be the same forever.
Yep.
And I love what you mentioned about legacy, because I feel like as children of parents, we always have the desire to do for our parents. We always have a desire to make them proud. But we have to ask ourselves, to what end, right? It can't be to our detriment. Right. So we have to make sure our parents want us to not only be successful, but they want us to be happy and healthy.
Right.
So even when I think about my late mother and I think about my father, I know that they're proud, and I'm constantly working to continue to make them proud. I also have to make sure that I'm living up to the other things that they want from me, and that's happiness and healthiness. So
that's powerful.
Also looking for ways to make sure that I'm honoring that, because there's no point in having success if you're unhappy when you're doing it, or you're depressed when you're doing it, or you're in a mental health crisis when you're doing it, which was one of the reasons why I stepped down from so many things last year, is because I felt that coming on. I felt like my plate was just too much. Yeah. And, success at my own demise, I knew that wasn't good for me, no matter how much of the pay cut that I was taking by stepping down and by transitioning and letting go of certain things in my life. I knew that no amount of success was worth my mental health. So I made transitions, and now I'm in a year in which I'm the happiest I've ever been. And although the money doesn't look the same, happiness is fulfilling. And I really appreciate, not only myself for making that decision, but the hubby for allowing me to make the decision. And now he kind of has to pick up that financial load. And, obviously I still contribute massively, but the load looks different.
Right.
I think it was well worth the sacrifice.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's powerful. And I commend him too. Like, bravo, Mr. Echols. That's awesome. That is powerful. And this is the new version of a power couple. So I love that. So let's go. Let's go. I love it. I'm here for it. I think that is powerful. Well, as we come to a close, just kind of tell my listeners how we can keep up with you, what you have going on next. It sounds like speaking is about to take off again. So yeah, keep us abreast of what's going on.
Yes, so everyone can keep up with me on Deshauna.com, and then you can also check me out on every social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And it's either Deshauna Barber or Deshauna the Speaker on all those platforms. And I'm always pushing out consistent motivational content. Like you said, speaking is kicking out. So I'm going to be in New Jersey in 2 weeks, and then New York right after that. And then I'll be in Milwaukee for a speech. So things are really just starting to pick up. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in my stillness mode, but I think just seeing things moving along and just trying to continue to be grateful. But if you're looking for consistent motivation, Deshauna the Speaker on all these platforms. And, I also have a podcast. It's called Sour Loss, Sweet Lessons. You can find that and listen to it on any platform where you listen to podcasts. And it's also on YouTube. So it's just really good stuff. And, my book, Pretty Ugly Lessons, on Amazon. And then my speaker's ebook is on Deshauna.com.
Love it. And then your training might roll back out in the fall, right?
It might roll back out in the fall, hopefully. We'll see.
She's not taking over the world, but the opportunity is finding her. So just where she finds the time. Well, Deshauna, I'm so honored. I love you, and I just think you're fabulous, and I just appreciate you. And I already told Samira, like, when it's time to go, we know who we're calling. We got all the aunties lined up. So all of them lined up. So we thank you. I honor you for taking this time with me. And this, they say, you guys have a good rest of your day.
Bye-bye.